12,000 years ago, somewhere across southern China and Southeast Asia, a human body was placed over a slow, smoldering fire and left there for days, not to destroy it, to preserve it. Researchers announced this discovery recently, describing tightly bound, crouched human remains that had been deliberately smoke-dried, the oldest known form of intentional mummification anywhere on Earth, older than Egypt by thousands of years, and found across an area spanning southern China, Vietnam, and parts of Indonesia. Before anyone was smoking anything for pleasure, humans had already figured out that smoke could stop a body from rotting. That single fact should completely change how you think about the origin of smoking. Because the question usually asked is, when did humans start smoking to get high? That's the wrong first question. The real first question is, when did humans first understand what smoke actually does? To flesh, to meat, to the human body itself? And the answer to that is much older and much stranger than any campfire high. In the next few minutes, we're covering 3 things nobody usually mentions in this story. How smoke was used on the dead long before it was used on the living. Why cannabis, not tobacco, was almost certainly Africa's original smoking habit. And the actual biological reason smoke works faster than any other way of taking a substance into your body. A reason most people have never heard explained properly. Let's start with that smoke-dried body. The mummification research, published from sites spanning southern China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, dated these smoke-preserved remains to between roughly 12,000 and 4,000 years ago. The bodies were positioned in a tightly bound, crouched posture, then exposed to slow, low-temperature smoke over an extended period, essentially curing them the same way you'd cure meat to stop it from spoiling. Here's the pattern interrupt. This wasn't a one-off. Researchers found the same smoke-drying technique repeated across an enormous geographic area, among populations that had no direct contact with each other. That means humans in wildly separate regions independently discovered the exact same relationship between smoke and preservation. Thousands of years before anyone built a pyramid or wrote a word. Think about what that means for our actual topic. Long before a single human ever intentionally inhaled smoke for pleasure or ritual, humans had already spent thousands of years as expert, practical chemists of smoke. They knew what it did to organic tissue. They knew how to control its temperature and duration. The knowledge required to smoke a plant for consciousness-altering effects and the knowledge required to smoke a corpse for preservation aren't as far apart as they sound. Both require understanding smoke as a tool, not just a byproduct of fire. So when did humans turn that same understanding toward their own lungs instead of a corpse or a piece of meat? Here's where Africa tells a story that rarely gets told. Tobacco is native to the Americas, so it didn't exist anywhere in Africa until European and transatlantic contact centuries later. But archaeologists have found smoking pipes across sub-Saharan Africa, dating back as early as 600 BCE, more than 2,000 years before tobacco ever arrived on the continent. So what were people smoking? The leading archaeological hypothesis is cannabis. Researchers have documented fired clay water pipe bowls in Ethiopia, dating to around 1400 AD, containing actual cannabis residue, and elbow-shaped pipes in Zambia, dating back to around 1200 AD. The pipe shapes themselves tell a story. Elbow-bend pipes are associated with tobacco use after European contact. Barrel and water pipes, the older style, are associated specifically with cannabis. That means for well over 1,000 years before most of the world associates Africa with tobacco at all, entire regions of the continent had already developed a completely separate, independently evolved smoking culture built around cannabis, using water pipes that cooled and filtered the smoke, a design choice requiring real engineering knowledge, not casual improvisation. Here's a use of smoke that has nothing to do with getting high at all, and it's easy to forget it counts as part of this story. In eastern Spain, a cave painting roughly 8,000 years old shows a figure climbing a rope ladder up a cliff face toward a wild beehive, reaching in with one hand while bees swarm around them. Researchers studying this scene have long noted that ancient honey hunters almost certainly used smoke from a burning torch to calm the hive before reaching inside. The same basic technique beekeepers still use today. Smoke disrupts a bee's ability to communicate danger to the rest of the colony, making the hive far less aggressive. That means thousands of years before anyone was smoking a plant for pleasure or preserving a body with smoke, humans had already worked out a third, completely separate application, using smoke as a tool of control over another living creature entirely. Preservation, medicine, ritual, and now animal control. Smoke wasn't one invention. It was a toolkit, and different cultures kept discovering new tools inside it independently. Now here's the part of this story that almost never gets explained properly: the actual biology of why smoke works the way it does. When you eat a psychoactive plant, the compounds have to survive your stomach acid, pass through your intestinal wall, and get processed by your liver before any of it reaches your brain. That entire journey can take 30 minutes to over an hour, and your liver breaks down a huge percentage of the active compound before it ever does anything. Smoke skips nearly the entire process. When you inhale burning plant matter, the compounds vaporize and cross directly from your lungs into your bloodstream through the thin membrane of the alveoli, reaching your brain in as little as 10 to 20 seconds. No stomach, no liver filtering, almost nothing lost along the way. This is the real reason smoking became the dominant method across so many independent cultures, not because it was primitive or accidental, but because it is, biologically, the single fastest way to get a plant compound from the outside world into a human brain that existed before injection was ever invented. Ancient humans didn't need a pharmacology degree to notice this. They just noticed that smoking worked faster and stronger than eating the same plant, and faster and stronger to a species trying things through trial and error is an incredibly persuasive teacher. So here's the real shape of this story. Humans didn't stumble into smoking through one single accidental campfire moment. They arrived at it through thousands of years of separate paths that all converged on the same discovery: that smoke moves things into the body faster than anything else available. Some cultures found that path through preserving the dead. Some found it through treating illness. Some found it through cannabis water pipes designed independently in Africa, centuries before tobacco existed there at all. The plant changed. The ritual changed. The reason changed depending on where you were standing on the planet. But the underlying biological fact stayed exactly the same everywhere, because human lungs work the same way in every single human body, in every century, on every continent. Maybe that's the real answer to when smoking began. Not a date, not a single ancestor by a single fire, but the moment, repeated independently again and again across the species, when a group of humans anywhere on Earth figured out that breathing something in worked faster than anything else they'd tried. Do you think humans figured this out through careful observation or pure accident, repeated enough times to look like a plan? Let me know in the comments. And if you want the next video where I dig into how ancient humans discovered fermentation, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.